Yes, greetings everybody. This is Wesley Pepper. This is the Art Lexcia podcast. This is episode 100. So that's kind of a big deal if you're in the podcasting world. 100 episodes. It's a big deal. So just before I introduce everything and explain where Siza and all of that, like much love to every single listener. There's been thousands of views from all over the globe, especially in South Africa, which is fantastic. When we started this over here, I thought South Africans will catch on a bit later, but they caught on and they're loving it. And much love to all the comments, to all the love I've been getting every single week from everybody. 100 episodes is a big deal, and to 100 more. I wanted to have a giveaway thingy, but man, I need a marketer for that. I tried to do it for my 50th episode and it didn't work out. But we'll do that. But we'll do giveaways and stuff all in the new year. In fact, in the new year, there's a lot of cool stuff coming. Look forward to that, and I'll be explaining that on the social media platforms over the course of the next few days. Siza, Nkosi, my dear friend, is not with us today. She's actually moving house, and I think she's on her way to the Eastern Cape. Was on much needed rest and all of that. So I'll be going solo at least for the next 2 weeks, because as you know, next week we have a really dope ass episode. We got the cooking show coming up next week, which is the Christmas show, which I'm really looking forward to. We're experimenting with that, and if it works out, if you guys tune in and listen, we'll definitely be doing that more next year. And it's gonna be fun, man. We're doing a small Nyana thing. It's not. It's based off the cooking show is based on the feedback we got from a lot of our listeners over the course of the year, actually. So that's to look forward to that. That'll be coming next week. Also, just the last thing. We sort of relaxed our deadlines actually last week because of if you live in South Africa, we've been having a nightmare in terms of the load shedding. Has killed up and has fucked up every form of scheduling. And it's also in the year, so we just thought we just relax some of the laws. That's why we didn't publish as in last week Friday, but we will publish 3 more episodes before the end of the year. Yeah, that's it. So, with being such a big episode, we have a real special guest today, man. We got Lorraine Sithole from the Gauteng International Book Festival. She's the festival director. You know, the festival happened, which was last week, which was the dates, but it was around about the first week of December. As you guys know, it was in Soweto. It was really cool. Thabo and Bobo went through and they did a lot of vox pops and they did some interviews with some cool. I know the one. But the lady's name. I must write these things down. But like we know her well, Daniela. There we go. Yeah, man, Daniela's very sweet. She's a very sweet person, and she tunes in. So big up to you, my sister, and a few others were some interesting writers. We got to see some of the energy in the festival, which is fantastic. And guys, and we all know, like, based in South Africa, yeah, man. The book festival, the Gauteng International Book Festival, was one of the first book festivals, at least to my memory, at least major ones that's happening post-pandemic South Africa. But guys, as you know, on this platform, we'll be talking a lot about how the pandemic has affected movements and everything to do with the arts. And we're actually quite honored to have you on board. So, Lorraine, good morning. Welcome and welcome to the Art Lexcia. How are you doing?
I am great. A week ago today, the festival happened. This time last week, I was a bundle of nerves and I was uncertain about so many things. Doubt was still in my mind, although we were at the venue. We saw, festival attendees coming through. Some authors had already arrived, but still, man, it was amazing. So I'm still exhausted, but not as exhausted as I was during the week. Yeah.
Yeah, man, I know, like, a festival director, it's a lot of work. You've got especially communications. The communication skills got to be on point, and managerial skills in particular. But I think communication, because as we know, writers, the pandemic has affected our industry in a major way. So I'm sure you had to be. So before we get to the festival, just tell our listeners a little about yourself. Are you a writer as well? I see you. Let me not prompt all of that there, because just in case I don't give it perspective or content. But just tell our tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and how we'll get to how the book festival came into being.
I'm a literacy and literary promoter. I am very big on homegrown stories, on getting our stories out there, on just shouting all these beautiful books that have been produced in the country out there. And of course, I also promote books that are from within the continent and in the diaspora as well. And yeah, I've been reading for as long as I could read. And yeah, reading for me is as normal as breathing. And for the last 15 years, I have been intentional about getting our stories out there, because as a younger woman, you know, there were some books that I didn't have access to. But in the last 10 years, we have seen a major growth, not only in the writing and publishing of our stories, but also in the distribution. You know, the chain has gotten more open. We have more access to a lot more books than we did when I was a young woman in my 20s. And yeah, I've been running my own book club for 12 years next April. It is a fantastic book club. It is membership based, and its premise is creating a love for reading as a lifelong hobby. You know, because when we think about books and the way we interact with books, it's always from an academic point of view. And once you are out of school, once you are out of a institution of learning, then, you know, we think that you don't have to pick a book up ever again in your life. But my thing is, you know, there is such deliciousness in stories. There is a richness in reading, and it is so therapeutic, and it is one of those hobbies that you can do on your own. You know, you don't need a group of people to read together. But for me also, it's the feedback, the telling of these stories, what I have read, the sharing of them, and that is where the book club comes in. And yeah, before last year, I was also curating the South African Book Fair program, the schools program, as I'm very big on childhood literacy. So I worked on that program, and also the adult literary program, which was amazing. For 3 years, I was part of the programming team. I am a moderator, you know, as I said, for me, it's about sharing these stories. You know, I get access to fantastic books, and it's important for me to tell someone about what I have read. So all that work, all those seeds just culminated into this beautiful event that we hosted last week, Sunday.
Fantastic. Few things. You were talking specifically about children's books. I've noticed that there's a lot more indie self-published people that's been self-publishing children's books. I know quite a few personally. Some of them not really mainstream, some of them just selling books to their immediate friends and circles of their social media platforms, which I think is fantastic. I've seen that, you know, South African creators are taking the initiative and understand the value of, you know, teaching our stories to our own kids, which I think is fantastic. Just a few comments on that. Like, have you picked that up as well? And what type of children books are writers putting out these days?
Oh my God, there is such an intentional shift in the way stories are told to kids. You know, we do love, you know, to speak about colors and all these nice, beautiful things, because we also don't want to shock kids by introducing a whole lot of themes that they are not familiar with. But what has come out is the intentionality in letting our kids, especially African children, know who they are, their identity, where they come from, their history as well, and the way that they put all that in a language that is accessible to a child, younger or older child, has been so beautiful. I mean, the themes that have been covered is about origin, your hair, your hue. Yes, we are all shades of black, brown, pinks, yellows, and stuff like that. And clothes. I mean, who would have guessed the importance of clothes to kids? But it's part of their identity, you know, when they grow up, as they grow up and they find themselves. Now, the clothes that they wear, very important as well. Games, especially team sports in foundation phase. I mean, when a child enters grade R, they come from a nursery school. Now they come into this big school. It's also anxiety inducing, and there are books that also cover that aspect of moving from one school to the next, from one grade to the next. And it's also beautiful to read as a mom as well, because, you know, the higher my children go up in school, I get anxious as well. You know, are they going to fit in? Are they going to be accepted? How are they going to cope with the schoolwork and the differences? I love how diversity has found itself in a diverse manner. I mean, we are not only are we diverse, you know, there is diversity in diversity, and having authors address that in an accessible language that a child can relate to, can understand, is absolutely beautiful. And sports as well, being part of a team, you know, do you want to be the champion? Do you want to be the supporter? We can't all be goal scorers, you know. You need strikers, you need goalkeepers, you need cheerleaders, and those are the things that are also covered in this myriad of books that have come out. That, you know, you don't always have to be a leader. Sometimes you need to follow, and that position is also important. So it's been quite a ride. It's been so much fun seeing what comes out for our children. Yeah.
Super interesting, man. Just to give my listeners some perspective, you know, I grew up in the 90s and there was nothing like that. When I grew up, there was no form of, there was just Jack and Jill and some other shit that actually made no impression on me. That I didn't think in my 40s, like I don't even remember it. And like I always think, like, if there was something that some book that I could recommend that actually made sense to me, with characters that looked like me, that had my hair, what's left of my hair, I would probably be the same. I don't know, but yeah, man, I just think that's super interesting, because I know you also raise the thing of identity politics, and I know that's also a big theme running through these books, which is, and I say thanks for bringing that up, because, and I said I could kind of touch base with that with the festival a bit later, because I know that's a big thing in South Africa right now, and since the pandemic, I know things have changed also. But so moving on from there, man. So what I'd like to, so you're the festival director of the Gauteng International Book Festival. Let me just give you, like a prelude to all of that, and then I'll bring you in, and we can, you know, discuss how it came to being and all of that. Yeah, guys, as you know, like on this platform, we've been discussing, you know, we started this thing, you know, hard lockdown in 2020, and that time everything came to an end, or to at least to a stop. And what we picked up is how artists were adapting with the fact, and I mean artists, I'm using it as an umbrella term for writers as well, for creatives basically in South Africa, because we speak to everybody, musicians as well. What we noticed is like how they were adapting with the fact that people weren't physically able to move out, because, you know, as with, for example, with the writer, if you have a book launch, the idea is to get people physically in your the space, and they can buy the book and they can listen to you, and then sales and so forth happens afterwards. But it's always a good idea to get people physically in your space, and that's what I came to know. And what we've been noticing is. I remember in 2020, the National Arts Festival took place, and they had that online. I think that was pretty successful. The numbers were also pretty impressive over there, given that it was the first time. And they just used a web-based platform for that, which was super interesting as well. So with that said, can we just take it to the beginning, man? When was the Gauteng International Book Festival conceptualized? You know, who was part of your team? You know, we had a bunch of book festivals that happened more or less the same time for almost 5 or 6 years. My memory serves me. So there was so it was always like first week of December. There was that, and then after that festival was sort of like the festive season. So I thought I was actually gonna know: are you like an offspring, or were you part of the original festival? If not, but can you just talk to like how you guys came to, you know, how did it came to being? Who was all part of the team and so forth?
Fantastic. I mean, for me, it was just a natural progression moving into this big project. You know, I run a book club, and every year we have 2 major book-based conversations. I mean, the book club, we have conversations every month where we meet and we invite authors. But twice a year in August, we have a huge book-based intergenerational conversations around in August, and we host 4 to 5, 6 authors. Last year we did it online because, as you know, we were under hard lockdown, and it was majorly successful. This year we had 4 authors, and Mesofita Brain was part of that lineup because we always link it to the events of 9th August 1956, and the reception was amazing. Also because we have been indoors doing all these things online for so long, so it was so exciting to be out there and having almost everyone from the book value chain coming into the same room, and we had these conversations going on. So hosting an event of this nature is not something that just sprang out of nowhere. There was always going to be something like that. So we came together, 4 of us. It was Nick Mhlongo, Sunyati, as well as Dr. Nokuthula Mazibugom-Simang, and we spoke about why not host a book festival in Soweto. I mean, Nokuthula, myself, and Nick, we are originally from Soweto. We're still there. We have ties, we have roots, we have a whole lot of people there. And Sue is Zimbabwe, South Africa for a while, and she is a respectable author, especially in South Africa, and she has a lot of support from the townships. So bringing her in as part of the group was a no-brainer. I mean, the time it took to work on this festival from inception up until it was implemented last Sunday, it took 5 months. Yes, we had a lot of constraints. Firstly, we had no money because, you know, festivals take a lot of money. We had no money, but for me, it was, that was a huge risk. I mean, that was insanity. But we, you know, the way that I approached the curation of this festival was, I already had everything that I needed to put up a festival of this nature. I have been doing a lot of work within the publishing industry. I know a lot of authors. I have promoted, I have supported a lot of locally based authors. I have fantastic relationships with publishers and publicists and almost everyone within the book value chain. So for me, it was, once we have secured a venue, then we start on programming, because your program will bring in the numbers. And as you know, I'm very big on childhood literacy, because we can't have parents who read when they were not children who read. So it was very, very important that alongside the literary program itself, we bring in a children's storytelling and literacy program as well. And as someone who has worked on the South African Book Fair, I have always lamented on how our people from the townships are not able to come to these festivals. And it's a matter of accessibility. And when we're speaking about accessibility, we're talking about where the venue is located, how accessible is it by public transport. If I am a mom of 3 kids and I want to come, what do I do with the children? And also, I mean, we had to charge an entry fee because we had a lot of overheads to cover, but we decided to keep the children's festival free, because if I can get a parent to come and bring their kid for free, definitely everyone is winning, everyone is coming. And we also looked at what challenges a lot of us face in the townships. I mean, if you're going to pay an entry fee and get in a taxi with your child to come to the festival, we know how kids are. Whether they have eaten at home or not, they are always hungry. When they get to a venue, mama wants a drink, mama wants that. So it was also important that we cover that. If we could have a sponsored meal for the kids, then half of our job is done. And then we looked at the time that the festival is taking place. We're talking about literacy. We want our children to read, but the schools are closed. And these toddlers, who is going to take them to the libraries because the parents still have to work? So we put together a book hamper that each child took about 5-6 books to take home over the holidays. And we looked at the children's offering. I mean, if you can take care of a child, you know that you are sold. I mean, the parents are sold. And we looked at, I mean, the way we curated the literary program was, what are the big issues coming out of COVID, out of lockdown? What is it that is being spoken about around the continent? What are our major worries as South Africans? And looking at the time that the festival is happening, and also our political situation at this point, you know, there is this big conference taking place. What are we going to talk about? I mean, load shedding, the education system is in shambles, access to services is also falling apart. So we wanted to curate a program that not only spoke to us as South Africans, but also included the major issues that the continent is grappling with, like feminism, gender. We looked at the way we tell our stories coming out of the townships. What are young people writing about? Because in order to have a thriving literary industry, you need to invest in the youth. You need to make the youth feel comfortable enough, safe enough to tell their stories in their own language. And if you have gone through our literary program, you can see that 55% of our panelists there were young people.
Interesting.
And 30% of them were self-published authors, you know. So we wanted to create a balance as well and bring everyone in the space.
Wow. Wow. Like, firstly, big up to that, and much love to the just one thing I picked up that you mentioned is accessibility. And I just want to champion that, because I agree with you there 100%. I think your timing was also great. You said like just after this when school is off break, because I know that time kids is a bit awkward, they don't know what to do, that type of thing. And yeah, man, the thing with the yeah, with the I was in a, as you were talking, I was thinking of a marketing thing. McDonald's, that disgusting food chain, they use kids as their marketing. They market, or rather, they primarily, it's targeted primarily at kids. Straight up, they don't do no marketing for adults. Which, if you think of it, is actually quite brilliant, because as you're saying the same thing. Like, once you appeal to the kid, you pay to the pockets of the parents. And that's slotted with accessibility, so that's great. And you also I like what you're saying, new positioning. So, you know, taxis, public transport, etc., which is a big thing, because I know in the art world, in the visual art world, accessibility is a huge issue. These festivals are usually far out of reach of everybody, and usually too expensive for the average guy. So much love to that. That's very cool. And I also like what you're saying about like how you curated it around like topics or authors that's writing books about what's happening in the country. So I'd actually like you to add on to explain a little bit more on that. Tabo did an interview with some of the writers, and some of the writers said like some of the books, the fella that wrote the book on I don't recall what the book, but it was on Ramaphosa. He seemed like it was going pretty well for him. Was it a successful venture? Did your curation work very well? Did you guys or did the public respond to did the public respond well to the authors, the books, etc.? Did they what was the and just Lorraine, sorry man, just before you answer there, we've got like a 10-minute thing here, so you'll just answer this there, and then we'll just restart the thing, and then we'll sort of finish off on the last section. So yeah, feel free to Thank you.
Okay, I don't know what was the feedback from Tabo and Bobo in terms of the numbers and the spirit that was contained in both session areas. So the events were separate. So the kids were on the other side, a bit further from us, because there was a lot of singing, dancing, clapping, just entertainment for the children, because we also want kids to understand that reading is fun. Reading is fun. It's not a chore. It's not a burden. It is such a necessary skill. And in the main session area, I mean, we had accommodated 400 attendees. It was packed. It was packed. It was standing room only. And I must say, Wesley, that up until the Sunday morning, I was still very worried about the numbers, because remember that we did a soft launch on Instagram 3.5 weeks before the event, and there was this beautiful link to cricket. And oh my God, the numbers were trickling in. I think it was the uptake was like 6 tickets every 3 days. And I was very, very worried. Also looking at not only the people attending the festival, but also I had these fantastic authors, and they needed ears. And I had this beautiful, beautiful venue, and they gave us new seats. They were unwrapping plastic bags from the chairs, and I was thinking, oh my God, I need bums.
Yes, Lorraine, like just before the break over there, we were talking about the atmosphere. We're talking about the participation of the audience. We sounded really excited. You sounded so excited when you said the numbers sounded incredibly impressive as well, and big up to that. That shares a lot about that you guys did here on the right path. So much love to that. You were discussing how, or rather, I mentioned that you guys sent out that questionnaire to the participants. So I'll be really interested to know what type of feedback you guys receive. But yeah, you can finish off what you were trying to explain before, and we can move into the questionnaire, and then we'll just move organically from there onwards.
I mean, looking back, there was a moment at the festival, I think just before midday. Firstly, we're running very late, and as you know, with festivals, nobody starts on time. But
oh yeah,
what was edifying for me as the festival director, all the participants showed up. Everyone who was invited to take part on both the children's program and the adult program showed up. We had 2 authors from the children's program who were sick, and they were gracious enough to send me a message. I think for on Sunday morning. I think they knew that there was no way I was still sleeping at 4 a.m. on Sunday morning. I was a whole bundle of nerves. And then we had one author from the literary program who has been sick the whole week and had thought that they were going to be discharged by Friday or Saturday morning. And she called me. She called me on Saturday afternoon and said, I am so sorry, I can't make it. I feel so bad. I so want to be there. And, as with anything, we need to be healthy first before we can give of yourself. And that's what of ourselves. And that's what I said to her, that, I need you healthy. I need you strong. I need you excited. I need you at your best. So make sure that you get healthy. Next year, bang on the money, you are coming back, because Terry Ann Adams is one of those voices that for me are so profound that they need to be shouted from the rooftops. So a win for me was everyone came, and also the attendees, so many people that I know from social media. I mean, social media has been such a big positive element when it comes to sharing our stories, shouting new books from the rooftops, or just discovering a gem from a blast from the past, And everyone that I knew from Bookstagram, very, very popular on Instagram, and Book Talk, I mean, they were there. They came in numbers. They were filming. They were recording. They were posting. And it also helped keep the momentum going during the day. And as I told you, I mean, we had a lot of constraints. Number one, it was media presence there. I mean, but having everyone come with their cell phones fully charged with data for me was a huge win. But also, you know, the seamless progression of both programs. We were running late, but we kept to the script. We were bang on the money of how things were going to unfold on the day. There were some significant weak points on the day. Firstly, for me, it was the long queues to the refreshments.
Interesting.
The hospitality staff as well. You know, next year we will definitely do better. But one of my biggest win was the longest queue was to the bookshop, the pop-up bookshop. That had the longest
wow.
queue. And Circle Capital was ready for this type of festival, although I gave them a list of the books that we were promoting on the day. They were able to bring from past catalogs also titles that those authors had written, and also because they work with a lot of readers, so they also bought what has been selling throughout the year, what could be great to read over these holidays. So they were well prepared, they were well stocked, they had 4 people manning the bookshop, so the queue was able to go very, very quickly. And yeah, I think those are the big things that we're going to make or break the festival. I mean, also people showing up. I mean, I am so humbled when anyone comes to anything that I have put together. So I'm very, very grateful to everyone who just came. They brought aunties, they brought kids, they brought grandma. Even my mother showed up. My brother and his wife and their kids, everyone from home showed up. And we're a big family. I think 30 people showed up. But most importantly, Wesley is introducing our kids from a young age to this experience. And we were able to work with magnificent sponsors, and we had sponsors 30 kids from the Orlando Children's Home to come and just experience this day. Because when we think of local celebrities, we think of, you know, musicians, we never put writers up there.
Good point.
I had 7 fantastic children's authors who just came especially for them. So for me, that was also a very, very big win. When a child thinks of who is writing for me, then they are able to say, I know someone from home. I know someone from Gauteng, from the Eastern Cape, from Soweto, from Mamelodi, and I met them. And the authors were so gracious. They were taking pictures. They were hugging the kids. It just turned into such a spiritual moment for me. And that is exactly what I had in mind in July when we were putting this together, that I want that spirit of connectedness. I want everyone to leave there satiated, looking forward to next year. I want the children this December to say, I am reaching for a book. It's load shedding for the next 4 hours. We don't want to hear, Mom, Dad, I'm bored. Gogo, I'm bored. What should I do? There are books. Just stretch your hand, take a book and read a page, a paragraph a day. Makes such a huge difference. Now let's talk about the feedback. From the panelists, from the publicists, from the Book Circle Capital.
You seem excited now. Go for it.
I am so excited. I mean, the only negative feedback that we had was around the food. As you know, Ubuntu Crawl Lifestyle has a licensed restaurant as well as a bar. And, you know, it was such a sore point that I wasn't able to include food retailers from within the township to come and be part of the day. So we had to rely on the menu, which is a very small Shisa Nyama offering. It's a Sunday. Townships across South Africa, we are grilling, we are braaiing. So it was that the menu was very limited for those who were not meat eaters. So we were able to find out beforehand from the panelists who's a vegan, who's a vegetarian, and those were catered for separately. And also, you know, people got thirsty and the queues, the service was a bit slow. So that was the only negative thing that came out of the feedback. But, you know, big ups to everything. Everyone enjoyed the program, the way it was structured. You know, it came full circle. It started off with individual stories with that session called My Story, and then it ended up with a celebration of our stories with Dudu Busani Dube, Tabile Shange, all the way from Durban, as well as Fred Kumalo. And then in between, we had curated sessions that spoke to a myriad of themes of, you know, about what is happening in the country, on the continent. As I said, the political session was very, very huge. And Becky Sisamube, who wrote the Ramaphosa Chronicles, yes. I think he was one of the more favored, you know. He was, because he's very, very vocal in that book. It's a collection of letters that he wrote during lockdown to President Ramaphosa, and they were published in the Natal Witness, and then he decided to collect them and put them in book form. They are hilarious. Some of them are very, very, very profound. And he addresses, you know, as much as we speak about the big issues, the economy, the electricity, we are a people who live here. There are the little things that also play a very important part in our lives. And during lockdown, alcohol was not available, cigarettes were not available. So those are the things that were big to South Africans, but not bigger than everything else that was happening, like vaccinations, to vaccinate, not to vaccinate, and the grief and the constant deaths that were happening within our families, our communities. And coming out of COVID, how do we then deal with all that latent grief while ensuring that the kids go back to class? I mean, we've been teaching them at home for 2 years, you know. How do we then reorientate them into class? So those were the things that we spoke about at the festival. And also the land question, there will always be, that will always be very, very important. And we have Tembeka Nuka Kaitobi speaking about that. We had Songezo Zibi coming to speak about that. Bulela Mabasa, her memoir called My Land Obsession. She speaks about growing up on Middlelands in those matchboxes. And I so related to her book because she was in zone 4, I was in zone 7. So we were like 3 degrees apart. And when I read her book, you know, I saw my life as a 6-7-year-old growing up in Middlelands. And she speaks about moving from a township school into a private school, which is also a very traumatic experience for someone. And I've been through that. And we were able, you know, to connect around those issues. And then Junks by Tsidiso Moletsani, he won the Sunday Times Fiction Prize for this year. Biggest surprise in the literary world. But you read that book, Wesley, it is fiction. The narrative time is 24 hours. It's about a young man denied an opportunity to go to varsity, goes into a depression, is taking drugs. It's like he is on a train to nowhere, you know, and he just crashes in the middle of, psychologically crashes in the middle of Newtown. And if you grew up around Joburg, you know, Newtown, Capex, they used to have these big youth-oriented festivals that I was too old for, but my sister has been part of that scene. So she was able to identify, and having Tsidiso, a very young man, bringing those experiences to everyone's attention. For me, that was, so major wins. There are some things that we couldn't help around the food and the venue, but we are moving forward with a lot more clarity on how to give festival goers a better experience. You know we will always give you guys a banging program because we are bang in the middle of the books. We read the books, we know who's writing about what, we know how to put panels together. But it is equally important that when you are there, when you are there, you feel loved, you feel taken care of, you get value for money. So we are looking at various options in terms of venues, because it is very, very important that anything we put up in the township involves a larger part of the population.
That's actually a beautiful point to end off. It's very poetic, because I was gonna ask about, like, because what I see you guys are doing, you're nurturing this ecosystem within the book industry, inclusive of everybody. And like you were saying, one of the issues was food, and that sort of leads into like the township economy, because I know there's also a serious ecosystem over there, and there's also a lot of potential, because if you invite them, they will invite their people and so forth. And we all know as Africans, if the belly is full, it's just good. It's just everything. It's just everything is good. Like it's just okay. Everything is just okay. So that's a very interesting point. So if you talk about like moving forward, I was gonna say the user experience, but that's take on. If you look at the festival goers experience, moving forward, what other tweaks? Because you guys, so okay, there's the food, so there's this other vendors you can invite, and so forth. There's also a variety of food, because meat eaters, vegans, and so forth. Is there other things that you guys are looking at? And I'm asking this because I'm very interested to know how festival managers. We're living in a very interesting time. People's attention spans is a bit smaller, but there's also a need for, because everything's virtual these days, there's also a need for more that human interaction, which is almost, I guess, more appreciated. I'd like to think that. I know I certainly appreciate it more than I did 3 years ago. So yeah, I'm looking at like nuances, like little details like that. Is there anything else outside that you guys are looking at?
Yes, Wesley. I mean, this one was the curation of this inaugural edition was very intentional. So we had to keep it very small scale. Sure. Looking at what resources we had available at our disposal, and what we could get within that very limited time frame. So our concentration was on key points, but obviously moving forward next year, number one, the duration of the festival is going to be 2.5 days. It's going to start on a Friday evening and end on a Sunday lunchtime. The past one, it was all day on a Sunday. And we took advantage of that date because everyone is like winding down. The schools are almost closed. So we can really afford to spend a whole Sunday at something like this. But, it's not something that we can sustain as festival curators, because a Sunday is also a family day. Yeah. So number one is the duration of the festival. Number two, we looked at accessibility. Yes, the venue was central. It was not too far from the highway. It was along the major routes in Soweto. But, we got questions from potential festival goers. How do I get from town to Orlando East, Orlando West? And I really didn't know, because I GPS. If wherever I'm going, I just GPS. So when someone starts asking about public transport, I was really at a loss for words, and having limited resources, I really didn't know where to reach out. So information to potential festival goers is very, very important. Where to get a taxi, where to get off, and stuff like that. And number three, very important moving forward, is the visibility of the festival. We have all this technology available to us. How do we make the experience accessible to someone in the Western Cape, in Kenya, in Namibia, or in Protea Glen, someone who really doesn't want to come and be with everyone else. We still have people who are very wary of COVID, and they don't want to be within large crowds. So we need to accommodate those people as well. And moving forward, we are looking at live streaming the event. Obviously, in the new year, we have a whole plan. In the new year, we come out guns blazing. We are speaking to everyone who wants to see this not only as a success, but as a sustainable project, ensuring that everyone is included, everyone is connected, everyone is able to be part of this magnificent festival. Number 4, as I said, venue. We need a bigger venue that is well-resourced. People, we need a venue that understands the unique demands and needs of a book festival. You know, it's well and good to be able to put together a music thing. You just bring a sound box, you advertise, everyone gets there, everyone goes to the bar, they get their own thing, they come back. But a festival has very unique demands. And also our authors and panelists, our VIP guests. And for me, I just felt that we were not able to show and give them the love that they had given to this festival because of the constraints of the venue. But no one has complained about that. It's just me being hard on myself.
But that's a very good point. That's a brilliant point, because if you keep those people happy, the festival will grow. And you are correct. Like with the music, like I like the thing you're saying with the music festival as a book festival. It might have a festival in the title, but it's not the same thing. The needs is different. There's parking, there's access, there's excuse me. I get it, and that's you also mentioned like how you guys wanna sort of stream it to have a streaming platform. That is super interesting, because we're actually working on developing that very same thing. Because since the pandemic, all been using with Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, and so forth. And I think a lot of the revenue that I think a lot of artists are missing out on revenue over there, because people are logging on these platforms, and the platform owners is monetizing it. And I think that's also a very interesting way that artists can monetize moving forward. So you have a gig, you have like 30 people, but you're streaming it to 30,000 people all over the globe, and there's serious money in that. And the same goes with books, because your sales, etc., will pick up. And there also needs to be an e-store. So that's actually very beautiful how you captured it. And it also, you can see you're really rooted in analysis, which is beautiful. So and also like it really seemed like really I don't want to say take care of the artist, that sounds, but you understand the needs of the writer, because sometimes people don't really, it's expect the writer to pitch to the gig and then get paid and then leave, but there's details with in that, and we are definitely living in a different time. Those things I think is a lot more important. So sort of in closing, last question on the book festival. So moving forward, you mentioned quite a bit of what you guys are looking to do in 2023. So just a few things. I was looking at the same time. In other words, like first week of December. Are you guys going to be doing anything different in terms of curating? Given that, if in the podcast recording last year, we didn't know there was going to be a war in Ukraine, and all of a sudden that had a huge impact on everybody. There was no way we could forecast that, because prices went up and all of this, and that also again influenced people's movements. So I guess if anyone is rooted in analysis like you are, that there's definitely things that's coming out that we have zero control over. So is there a way that you're kind of conscious of that and trying to work around that? Or you're going to use the same formula and just use the data that is collected now on top of the formula? And is there what other stakeholders are you in partnership with?
Oh, wow. I mean, if it ain't broke, why are you fixing it? Firstly, in terms of curation, we are going to keep the same formula. I mean, it works. It's been working for years, and I mean, we understand the needs of the type of readers. You know, it's not only authors and panelists, it's also readers, the type of readers that we attract to, that we want to keep coming to a festival like this. And we also understand the needs of the community where the festival takes place. You know, we're talking about reading as a sustainable, lifelong hobby. So these are the areas that we are looking at. These are the people that we cater to, and we obviously want them to keep coming. Now, secondly, when it comes to curation of the festival moving forward, I mean, there is that international element in the festival. And
glad you mentioned
that. And that we are going very hard on next year. We were very deliberate in what we wanted to call this festival. Yes, we had constraints this year, but you don't let your current limitations stop you from dreaming big. So next year, we are looking at bringing panelists, authors, moderators from outside of South Africa, from within the continent, to right across the diaspora. And that will require a streaming platform, because we also want to be realistic in terms of the kind of financial support we are going to get, you know. And if we can connect with authors in Canada, in Nigeria, in Uganda, via a streaming platform, then we were able to use that hard cash. Yes, hard cash, we do want hard cash. We are able to use that hard cash for other contingencies. So definitely the international part is there to stay. But most importantly for this festival, the keynote speakers and the headliners will always come from South Africa. We have a wealth of talent.
Too much.
Oh my God, we are so gifted when it comes to storytellers and people who are custodians of our stories across the board. So those three key people will always come from the country, and we will always make sure that they are there in physical form. Unless there is a major emergency, then we will string them in. But streaming, next year we're going full force. We are hoping potential collaborators are listening, and obviously we are looking at you as well. Make us an offer, Wesley. Make us an offer we can't refuse.
The brain is working. Yes. No, don't worry.
Definitely. And you know, we are looking at a lot of elements that are going to make this festival very, very special for everyone who is there, who is either there physically or watching from a streaming platform. I love the idea of a podcast at the festival. You know, you put up a booth, you choose the authors that you want, we let them know, you have a 5, 6, 7 minute thing with them. So that will be very, very great for us moving forward next year. And as I said, you know, panelists who are the authors as well as the moderators, they are our VIP guests. So next year they will be better taken care of. What have I not spoken about?
I think you covered everything. I think
covered everything
in quite good detail anyway. Because I'm just making a note here for myself, so when I wrap up here, that I know what to follow up on and so on. I've got a real thing of I write everything down, and I use different color markers. I've got all here with many markers. So
I carry a clipboard. I carry a clipboard and paper everywhere I go, because I think there's a certain accent to reading what you have written, because it brings back that feeling, the feeling that you had when you were writing it down. You know, typing is great, but for me, looking at my writing, sometimes it scribbles, which means that I wanted to capture as much information as possible. But when I look at it, then the whole paragraph comes back. So keep writing.
I'll show you quickly. I've got I don't know if you can see it, and it's written in different it's all over the show. But there's a serious method at my desk here. So at the bottom, yeah, I have the papers for the whole year. And it's actually an artwork, and the idea is eventually, so what I do this time of the year, this is my studio, so I spend a lot of time in my studio. So I go through stuff like this, and sometimes there's an artwork behind it. So that's just something interesting. Lorraine Sithole from the Gauteng International Book Fair. This was fantastic, my sister. For all our listeners, how do they get hold of you? If there's writers, if there's authors, publishers, if there's booksellers, people working within the book industry ecosystem who want to get hold of you, how do they do that?
The festival has social media pages on Instagram, Twitter. We have a Facebook page, the Gauteng International Book Festival, and I love social media. I am posting, I am talking, anything to do with books. I am there. Lorraine Sithole, you will find me. I am always shouting about the great products that come from the publishing industry.
Fantastic, man. And for all the other listeners, remember, if you guys just like the Lexcia is on all the different platforms. So if you're listening to this on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Apple, there's so many. YouTube, our primary index page is YouTube. So if you guys listen on any of those platforms, you can always just drop me a message at the Lexcia podcast at gmail.com, and we will forward the information through to Lorraine as well. My sister, this was fantastic. This, like I said, this is my 100th episode, and I think this was such a beautiful way to cap such a momentous occasion. So just again, to all my listeners, I miss Siza, actually. She always has a lot of fun questions and a lot of fun angles, and she's always stressed like Black love, and she always says about how we should celebrate ourselves. My sister, I think you're doing a fantastic job. I think you should celebrate what you are doing over the festive season. I wish you and your family a fantastic festive season. You and your family, I hope you guys eat, your bellies are full, you have laughter and so forth. I've got one more. I've got to record the Christmas episode. That's going to be a lot of fun. So the listeners look forward to that. I'm talking to my sister. We're going to be doing the New Year's Eve thingy. But I think we're just going to go live and just have fun on that. I don't think that's going to be a very informal episode. And then to the listeners, we will be off for 2 weeks. We will be back around about the 12th of January. That means publishing new episodes in 2023, and we got a whole program lined up, which definitely includes the Gauteng International Book Festival, because that will be exactly 12 months from now. So that's fantastic. I'm really looking forward to that. My sister, one love. Thank you for coming through. All the best moving forward, and I will keep you up to speed regarding the publishing on this episode. What I'll do, I'll send it through to my producer later on tonight. And as soon as he's published it, I think we'll probably publish the 2 episodes in the coming week, which is a formula I'm not too great on, but circumstance, but we'll still promote it like we always do. It's just that it's a bit of a holiday season, so I'm really interested to see how our listeners, how their listening habits hopefully won't change. And yeah, guys, if you're having a holiday, remember, you can always tune into the Art Lexcia podcast. If you listen to the one and know anything to do with art and processes and entrepreneurship, and in this case, book festivals, you know exactly where to go to. So my sister, once again, thanks a lot. And I'll be in touch with you by social media. Cheers, man.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
One love. One love.